Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us. We are coming to you live here from our studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you our first impression session of our Spotlight, where we talk about our favorite aspects, constructive criticisms, and the most important question of the evening of would we play this game again. But first up, who are we? As usual, I'm Matt.
I'm Ann.
I'm Josh.
And we are Twist Gaming, and you guys are awesome for joining us today. So today's Spotlight, we got a chance to show off Call to Adventure by Brotherwise Games. A big shout out to them for sponsoring this stream and all of this week's streams. And I'm going to toss it over to Josh to talk a little bit about what kind of game Call to Adventure is.
Call to Adventure is one of my favorite parts about RPGs and stuff.
Definitely my favorite part, yeah.
Is building backstories, and you're building a backstory for a hero or anti-hero.
Yeah.
And you kind of just go through all these parts. You have a tableau of cards in your hand that you kind of build in to get points and do some set collection, and it's a drafting game, and you're using runes instead of dice to try to beat challenges, defeat adversaries, or you could just pick up some traits or pick up allies on the way.
Right.
So you get to do all this cool stuff with it. It's really fun. I know you like to start with the person who won.
Yep.
My favorite part was the stories we told at the end.
Oh, so you're saying that you won?
No, and I enjoyed Anne's story the most because she basically made Batman.
She did make Batman. That was awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was just a fun story and everything. Like that was the best part of the game for me. Like, the game's good. I really enjoy that storytelling aspect of it that you can add on to it.
Absolutely. And it is an optional part of the game. You can very much play it with just collecting the points on the cards, but it is encouraged to play it in this direction. And I think it's really cool considering that the game is the character creation of an RPG, and you're creating their backstory. So why not give it a little bit more life than just reading what's on the cards? Which is, I mean, you did a great job with that. It was kind of funny. More than kind of funny. It was awesome.
And the other thing Brotherwise has done is they partnered with some authors to make expansions. So the King Killer Chronicles by Patrick, and can you help me on this name here?
Rothfuss?
Yes, Patrick Rothfuss is the expansion on the Kickstarter.
Give me a high five.
Oh, I done
Jeez.
did it.
All
right, serious question.
Yeah.
When's the third book coming out?
Who knows? But you can play, and you can't play as the heroes in that story, but you play in that setting, in the world setting.
So you're building the side characters and the people in the story that are kind of expanding the depth of the world.
Oh, I know what world I would like to play in.
What?
I want to play in the Elfstone world. Shannara.
That hasn't been announced yet, but they did announce Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight.
There you go.
Chronicles. I should know this. I love the series. So that's going to be expansion in mid-2019, late 2019.
So awesome that they're getting
cool.
these like licensed, super interesting and deep fantasy stories and series, and then because it gives you that extra attachment to creating these characters. So example would be the Batman thing. Obviously, there's not a direct partnership with like DC Comics or something like that, but if you're set in this world and you're seeing these events that you're familiar with, you're going to create like a character within there that kind of supports the environment. I think that's really neat. I want to point out that I think that the artwork in this game is absolutely beautiful, and I'm just starting out with the background image you see, the split good and evil. I get a very much Fable feel from it, where you choose the darkness and the light, the good and the bad path. And the game does that really nicely with balancing the hero and anti-hero. You have the hero deck, the anti-hero deck. It's hard to make yourself the righteous good hero, but it's easy to fall into the path of the corrupt. And there's some benefits into going the path of the corrupt right away, the anti-hero route, but if you go too far down, you kill yourself with the negative point totals. And with the hero, it's hard to go up, but it's just more and more beneficial as you go up. So I thought that was really neat, the way that they balanced that into the game. Seeing the traditional RPG traits is really neat. Just very straightforward. You have the dex, strength, con, charisma, wisdom, intelligence. I think that was really cool the way that they did it. And just thematically, the game is really nice. I just want to show off a little bit of the cards here, some of the cool artwork that we see in the game. So the Ancient Evil, you got that kind of Lich Dragon there. leading a boarding party, so you have the naval battle. What was some of your favorite art in the game?
There's the dragon one that was over here. Yeah. Right there.
What, this one?
Yep.
I just showed that one.
Oh. And what else did I really like? I like the hunter. I thought I mean, it doesn't show. That was really nice. It doesn't show. The hunter doesn't show off well on the green screen because it's got all the nature background.
Yeah.
Um.
Josh, can you give me your dragon card?
Oh, okay, so this was kind of cool, and it was just one of those moments where I was kind of like, oh. So resist arrest,
Yeah.
it's a chick. And I know, like, it's just one of those things that, maybe you might not get, but, like, when you're a girl playing these games, you usually don't see, a girl as the baddie, and it was cool to kind of see that.
The game does a really nice job also, I mean the artwork rather, of showing the light and dark on the card. So I showed the one card with the regal going up the steps, and it's very much illuminated.
The heir to the throne.
This one here, the heir to the throne.
I love artists that can do light really well.
Thomas Kincaid.
Yes.
But the light is really beautiful in this one. Then you have conversely here, the Dragon's Hoard Steal the Treasure. This is a very dark card, and it does a very good job of like kind of backlighting
That's
the
smog.
that. So it's
All day, every day.
Benadryl Cabbage Patch. So I think the art is just absolutely gorgeous on the game. So I wanted to point that out.
Josh had a really good example of some more Eastern art-styled cards, too. Those two right there. That I thought was cool. So it's not all kind of
Middle
Middle Earth. That's cool.
Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah, European. That's kind of what I want to go for. Western's not, although, like, I mean, look.
The purple hues and the green hues and stuff like
Oh,
that.
like the cherry blossom tree kind of feel.
Then you have kind of the American Western feel with this one here.
Even though it's not like it's Saudi. Or I say Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
I say Saudi because I'm thinking Saudi Arabia because I'm thinking Arabian Nights.
Gotcha.
That's where that went.
And then you've got your dark romp through the forest here. I feel like romp's probably not the best word to describe that, but
But Matt, can you pick those two cards up that I showed you before, the First Love and the True Love, I believe?
Yeah, sure can.
So the other cool thing was you get these allies, which is cool. But you can normally use your allies to help with an ability, or you can sacrifice them to help for ability.
Yes.
I thought it was kind of a little dark what the ability is for your True Love and your...
Kill them!
You could sacrifice them to become more evil.
I feel like
and
that's
get
appropriate.
experience.
I could see that. Anne, how about you? What were some aspects of the game that you really enjoyed?
I know you definitely touched on the art. We've really touched on the character building throughout. I enjoyed coming out and seeing kinds of cards or events that would normally take place in some sort of a fantasy story, lest it be, movie, book, what have you. That's cool.
That's the box art, which is really cool.
I liked the runes. I thought that they were different.
I loved the runes. Like going away from the traditional D6 and doing something different, and it gives you the much more thematic feel as well. And they did a great job with theming in the game.
Yep.
For being such a simple game, having a nice theme went a long way. And it very much gives you that traditional fantasy, I'm going to cast the bones and read your fate and stuff like that.
Yeah. I like the runes. I like how they were used. I like the mechanism.
The dark runes, the third rune being a unique ability that it gives you if it lands on the right thing. So it kind of promotes you to go forward and grab, be more skilled in one area versus diversifying. So that was really neat. Josh, anything else from your end?
No, I like the little bit of set collecting in there. It helps kind of theme the story a little bit too. Apparently, one of the things when I was reading a little bit of diary, the design diary and their updates, that there used to be like 12 different sets.
Oh.
And it was just like really overcomplicated.
Yeah.
And then they broke it down. They actually played with Patrick
Rothfuss,
the game, and he's like, it was too much, and they simplified it and just made the game a lot tighter.
I thought that was really cool that they said that they got input from that author and directly into the game mechanisms. So that was cool.
That's what I mean. It takes a really great author to be able to tell a story and have the various elements. Like, it's all pretty basic how how do I want to put this? They're all pretty basic elements that are arbitrary enough where you can combine them with the other elements in the story. Oh, that's so cool. See, look, I'm going through these cards. To really get a great story. You can really make it whatever you want.
While still giving you enough of a direction that it just doesn't seem all crazy.
Yeah, like even if you're not a really great storyteller, you're going to be able to do a pretty good job putting together a story because you're being given the right pieces, just enough of the right pieces.
Absolutely. All right, so if you two are both done, let's jump into the constructive criticisms portion of this stream. And again, this is where we're talking about, if we had the opportunity, any changes we would like to implement into this game. And it is very important here to note that the version of the game we played with tonight is an early prototype version.
Yes.
So it doesn't have all of the components that you might see in the final copy. So this is very much a up in flux type of thing.
Just to note, the game currently has a player mat that everyone plays their cards on, which does have quick reference guides around it.
That was going to be my main thing.
So that is something on there, just to make a note of that, because I know that's something we kind of harp on.
Yeah, so that is something that I was going to bring up is the quick reference guide would have been really nice. The symbols are simple enough and distinct enough. It's just from the beginning, as I'm sure you guys saw during the stream, I had a little bit of trouble differentiating between the two of them. Oh, well, not the two of them, the lot of them. Having a little bit of a distinction between the story icons and the powers, whatever you want to call those, would have been nice. I mean, I get that these are black and gray, but maybe having a different shaped border or something around the outside would have gone a little bit further from me.
Okay.
Just because sometimes I was looking, I'm like, oh, wait, is this a story card or is this, where's my...
Like a circle or something?
Because, I mean, you got a crown here and a crown here, so it's just, sometimes I quickly confuse myself of what's charisma and what's the crown.
The art style is very different between the set collection and between the traits, but I'm going to second that as being somebody who came right to the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's very confusing to pick up the cards, and that was one of the things that troubled me was, okay, what's the tree? Is that a special kind of ability? The square iconography makes me feel like it's connected.
Right. So you have the diamonds for the triumph and tragedy. So perhaps a circle for set collection would have worked better, as Josh was saying. So that's just one little area that I wanted to harp on a bit. One other thing that did come up in our stream here was the clarification of this card.
Yeah.
Again, that could be the fact that the rulebook isn't clear right now because the...
prototype.
It is a prototype, so that might be up in the air. So something on that.
But it was enough that that card came up twice, and it was enough to make us stop and question.
Correct. So it is for each one of the tragedy that you have taken, gain +1 to your next challenge attempt. So does this one count? Yay or nay? And then with certain abilities that let you retry your challenge attempt.
If you play additional cards after the fact, do those count as well?
Correct.
Or do those cards count at all? It's only what's on your tableau. Because that could be the other thing.
Right.
So
if they don't count until after the turn is resolved, because then they're added to your tableau. So there's a couple different interpretations for that. I believe we had one other question, and that was regarding the allies. And the allies are not in the prototype rulebook because that was a stretch goal.
Whether you could place if you could place an ally underneath an adversary.
Correct. So that is a question that will probably get answered within the final rulebook. It's just something that I wanted to bring up because it might be interpreted as a negative point, the fact that we were confused about it. How about you guys?
My confusion is not a negative point. I'm on point with everything. I have a point that I would like to bring up.
Yep.
I want to talk about the track. So, part of the prototype copy. So we printed this out on paper. This is not final game quality. 800 times, just double check that. All right, so this is the track that tells you how far you are on. Now, it's no longer triumph and tragedy, right? There was another word.
This is the corruption track.
There we go. Corruption track. Okay. So, in the beginning of the game, Josh explained that it was much more difficult to climb up the corruption track than it was to slide down the corruption track. Fair warning, fair heads up. Mm-hmm. I was a little more I risked my corruption a little more because I figured, okay, well, it's probably going to be harder to go back up, but this is the beginning round of the game, so I'm sure something will pop up which will allow me to bring back up the track. So when I'm thinking it's maybe a 5-to-1 opportunity or something like that to go up the track than it is to slide down. Fortunately, I did pull a hero card on my first rounds, which gives me the ability to gain light as opposed to corruption, or choose an opponent to gain that. As we were talking about the beginning of the first impression session, how many cards are in this game?
No idea. A lot.
Quite a few.
There are 2 other cards in the set that we have in the whole, all of the cards that allow you to go back up the track. So it's not just difficult to get back up the track, it's nearly impossible.
So there's 2 hero cards.
There's
and then
there's 2 Deny the Dark 1 cards, which are hero cards. Now, and mind you, which I thought was really irritating and interesting. And I've tried my best to go through these cards, so there may be something that I'm missing. But if I'm missing something, it's like the one-off because I've tried to go through all the cards that I have. Both those cards are hero cards. When do I want to go back up the corruption track?
When you're lower on the corruption track.
And when you're lower on the corruption track, you cannot play the hero cards. So the only other opportunity you would have had to go back up the corruption track is an Act 1 card.
Only in Act 1.
Only in Act 1, Cruel Master, that says you may sacrifice this ally to gain whatever the opposite of corruption is.
So you would have to get it in Act 1. You'd have to pass the more difficult challenge that the ally is under, and it would be under something arbitrary. And it has to show up.
Right.
Because
that didn't show up. I pulled it out of our deck.
For a 3-player game, you're talking about 16 cards in total of Act 1 being shown.
Yep.
At a minimum.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It might not even rear its head. And we did not cycle through all the hero cards. We cycled through all the anti-hero cards.
Because you slide down to the corruption, and then you can only play the anti-hero cards. So that is, I mean...
I really want to say thank you for digging through those cards and finding the quantity of those, because that was going to be a question of mine, and I was going to say the only card that I saw within the game that we played was the one you had at the very beginning.
The one Deny the Dark one.
It definitely skewed my perception of how common those cards were going to be.
Yeah.
And I think it would be more beneficial to have those cards be slightly more common.
100%. And to have some, if I'm not, granted, look, the table's a bit of a mess, but I just cycled through everything that I could get my hands on. If there's another card in here, there might be, but it's like another card or 2, maybe. Right. And this, I think that it's very disproportionate to get back up the corruption track with a 3-player game, and that sucks because I lost 4 points when I went down to my 4th row for corruption, and in my last round, I had to make decisions on whether or not I could choose a challenge that didn't even really suit the character that I had built, and how taking one of the black runes was going to... What my gamble was with taking a black rune and getting a corruption and minusing 4 of my points versus taking a challenge that I didn't really want.
Right. So given the fact that there's only 3 cards to increase your hero, your positive corruption, if you will, and you need to move up 2 to get to the top spot,
Yep.
that means that, it's almost impossible to do it. So yeah, that's a very fair point. I think that I very much wholeheartedly agree with you that I would like to see more cards that are, the sun, more beneficial cards in terms of redeeming yourself, more redemption.
Right, because those are all the cards that we played.
Correct.
So then, yeah, because I couldn't reach over there, but I figured I didn't need to because that was everything we'd already seen and played.
Right. So Josh, how about you? Any constructive criticisms on your end?
I think you guys hit the biggest one with going back up the track. There is a lot of ways to
prevent yourself from going down.
There's one more.
Oh, remove. Okay, I didn't remove a corruption, so maybe I didn't look for that.
Okay.
But
that wouldn't
put you up into the high part of it. It would just give you that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's 3 Deny the Dark one because there was my one that I played.
Okay.
Regardless,
still,
the point was it's still
hard to get up there. I'm not disagreeing.
I don't. I think hard to me implies like I was saying, like a 1 to 5. Hard is all right. I got a 20% chance that I'm gonna pull something that, if I pull something that impacts my corruption tracker, that I'm gonna go up.
Yeah.
But this, I don't even think that ratio. I don't think that this is anywhere near that ratio.
It was impossible in the game that we played.
Yeah, well, I moved up once, so yeah. They would not have. In the game that we played, nobody would have had the opportunity to gain the 8 points.
So, Matt, did you go through hero cards a lot or no?
I used maybe I used maybe 3 or 4 cards in total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious of, because part of the game is kind of pushing your luck with the dark runes.
Right.
And seeing what. So I understand that part of it.
felt
I'm
like-
just curious how. Can I see the hero cards? You have a stack of them there, or are they just all scattered?
No, they're scattered because I went through them. I tore through them to see if I could find.
I feel like there was a disproportionate amount of cards that of challenges that gave you hero cards versus anti-hero cards as well. I felt like anti-hero was definitely the more popular route to go, which I get that. That's fine. It's just that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more swinginess in balancing, towing the line between good and evil versus just...
Even at the end of the game, when we still had so the sorceress card came out and nobody could defeat her. I think you tried to take her on. Or somebody tried to take her on, right?
Yeah.
So her special ability is, while the adversary is undefeated once per turn, any player may pay an experience to draw an anti-hero card. That was cool, but after your turn, all the anti-hero cards were gone when it came back to my turn, and I couldn't even play that. But we still had a stack of like 10 hero cards.
At least, yeah.
So at the end of a 3-player game, it's incredibly disproportionate.
Right.
I also think both Ann and I did pick characters that lean towards anti-hero.
Yeah.
And Matt was a neutral.
Yeah, it was neutral.
Neutral, so it didn't. And since it was easier to go down the track, we kind of did that. But if you played a more goody two shoe hero, that might play different. I'm curious to see how it plays in different games, depending on what destinies you have in play.
Very much. This is our first impression of the game, so this is our first playthrough, seeing what happens and reacting to it. I don't want to harp too much on that one thing, but it obviously was a point of criticism for us. Is there anything else that you guys would change if given the opportunity?
I would like a rules clarification on sorcerers, because I think Josh cheated.
Oh, probably. Yeah, once per turn, any player may pay 1 to draw. Yeah, I think he cheated on that.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Okay. That was it. That was my last point.
All
Do you have
right.
anything else?
So I'm gonna go from the. So I don't know if anyone noticed, the common runes and the dark runes were actually different shape than the other runes. Did anyone notice that?
No.
I don't know what you're saying.
Common runes, the dark
Bootcamp?
runes.
Oh, look, guys, this is what behind the scenes looks like.
These are different shapes.
The actual...
The
Shape.
actual
Yeah,
shape
one
of
of
the
them's
rune.
square and one of
Yeah, I
them's...
thought that was cool.
Okay, so that's a way to tell the common runes.
Oh, I didn't...
And I was having difficulty in the demo, and I was really confused what he was picking up, because
The tier 3 ones.
no, but looking at the colors for me, I know there's colors there. But
I didn't even
I
think
can't
about that.
even.
Because I was like, oh, Josh, it must be easy for Josh here, because this is a charisma and this is a dex, but I didn't even consider that on the back. Granted, these are prototypes, so this is probably Sharpie, like purple Sharpie
Yeah.
and black Sharpie, so maybe the colors will have
The
a little
colors-
bit more...
I can't see that those are different colors.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is, maybe there'll be more of a contrast on the final version of those ones. I'm curious too. The other two that I would be curious to see in final production are the Constitution and the Strength.
Because they're so similar to each other.
Yeah. So I'm just worried about the color they do pick. Just trying to make that as colorblind friendly as they can. Because right now, I literally need to flip over every single one. And
See what it is.
And this shape is not different enough for me to always realize this is the common one.
What I think is kind of cool, though, what they could do that would be kind of cool, would be to put a smaller imprint of the symbol
Icon on
of
the
what
back.
it is on the one tally side.
Yeah.
So have like a little crown next to it for the charisma, one of the arrows for dex, just smaller, maybe in the corner, kind of like a playing card does.
My face for the intelligence.
Why? You had no intelligence.
It's because I'm smart.
But I know they were talking about actually doing colored runes. So instead of the inside being colored, it would be that the whole room would be that color.
That doesn't solve the colorblind problem.
It doesn't that, and also it doesn't have that nice look. It gets to
Rainbowish versus having a uniform
toyish.
color. Yeah.
It
I
doesn't
want it
look like
to
runes.
look like a stone.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. I think one thing they talk about, they're going to do them more kind of a bone color.
That'd be cool.
But if they still did the common ones as white or something like that isn't off color. It's a little bit off color, so it's a little bit easier to see those.
What's
three.
the issue with you with the common ones?
He doesn't like the shape.
The shape isn't distinct enough, and those three look the same to me right now.
But does it matter? Like, okay, yes, I get it, right? And I remember I felt like I didn't even realize that these were different shapes. I didn't realize at all until you just pointed it out. Now that these are kind of angled. But what does it matter?
So I was very organized just to make the gameplay. So I had everything sorted out here. But if we played like that and we kept just grabbing our runes out of a pile like that,
It would take forever.
it would take me forever. And since I knew I had this issue
Yeah.
and how I played, I had them organized in piles of which ones were which. And you helped me. I don't even know why I had it like that. It was just to help me pull them out.
Oh, I thought it was just your obsessive
So another
compulsive.
note here is that for certain abilities, like I had my lucky ability, which gives me the opportunity of spending an experience to flip
flip.
a rune over. I actually did that on my turn, where I was like looking under the runes
see
like,
which ones they actually
what's
were.
under here. Yeah.
So I mean, it's not a huge. It's a little bit of an impairment. I made myself work around it by keeping myself organized. But like in the demo, this was the pile of runes on the table, and they were pulling them out and throwing them back in the pile, and I was just like, I have no idea what you're doing. I could not figure out how he's pulling out the commons. I'm like, I have no idea. Like, besides he knows that they're blank on the other side.
You didn't know that he was actually a sorcerer? That's why he was
could have
demoing
been.
the game.
Yeah, he could have been, but
Seriously.
when you play like that, the game it becomes very
Takes
hard
longer,
for me to play.
cumbersome.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that leads us into the most important question of the evening of would you play this game again? I'm going to toss it to you, Josh.
Yeah, no, as I said, I really enjoyed the story building. My favorite part of this was the storytelling at the end.
Yeah.
It's a storytelling kind of game. The point system was fun. Playing with the set collection and stuff. I had 3 sets when we were finished.
Yeah.
I could have had a 4th set if I forgot my Destiny card had a story icon
I did
on it.
too.
And then at the end, I was like, oh, I could have picked up like 2 or 3 of those.
I didn't realize that either, and it just worked out well for me.
Anne?
Definitely. Well, okay, let me back that up. I would play it again, but I'm not a big fan of the corruption tracker, and I think it really detracts from the experience. So I don't think, to be honest with you, I might play around with the cards, and if somebody else pulled it out, I'd be like, cool, let's do it. But I wouldn't want to pull this game off the shelf until the issues with the corruption tracker are addressed.
Fair enough.
Question though, would you play this with the kids?
I think it would be a really fun game to play with the kids for the storytelling, but it's the same thing. I think that the corruption tracker mechanism dissuades me enough from taking it off the shelf to even sit and play it with the kids, to be honest.
Okay.
But I mean, I would love to sit there and be able to go over the storytelling thing, because I think it's a great way to teach. It would be a fantastic way to teach the kids how to build a story, how to build a character,
Very much
and do
so.
those things.
I'm going to say definitely yes. I really liked the game a lot. I think the artwork was beautiful. I think that the gameplay was a lot of fun.
That's probably one of the coolest pieces of art in the game that we didn't
really
show off.
cool.
So you said artwork again, and I was just like, we need to show off the demon.
No, but it is really cool. So I really enjoyed the game. I really loved the storytelling backstory part to it, as Josh and Ann both pointed out. I do agree the corruption tracker needs a little bit of work. But again, this game is pretty fluid right now because it's on Kickstarter, so I got my fingers crossed that's going to be something that's addressed. But I still would play this game again just for the storytelling elements.
I feel like this could be fun, if you're a creative writer person,
Yes.
Yeah.
play this and be like, all right, I'm gonna write a story about like
Yeah.
the character I just made.
I think that's fantastic. I think that's definitely the draw here to the game. And the artwork is just so beautiful and so detailed. And when you have that beautiful, detailed artwork, it becomes a very immersive experience, which is what I love so much about RPGs.
I would also like to see, like, if we had more time, do a one-shot RPG session where we played this game first and built the characters and then RPG'd as them.
That'd be so cool.
I think that would be ridiculously
Yes.
fun.
Yep. Yeah, I like that.
So with that, that's going to conclude our first impression session here of our spotlight of Call to Adventure. You had the Call to Arms card. That's why I got that stuck in my head. That's going to conclude our first impression of our spotlight of Call to Adventure by Brotherwise Games. Currently live on Kickstarter right now. So there's the link right there. And I would like to point out that this stream and all of this week's streams were brought to you by Brotherwise Games with Call to Adventure. With that, this is going to be Twist Gaming signing off for now. As usual, I'm Matt.
I'm Ann.
I'm Josh.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good
Good night.